It's blue sunny skies as always in Seattle. It's 10 a.m. My name is Parimal. I'm the producer and host of Earth is a Witness. I want to welcome you all our live audiences from joining us from all around the world. We have another awesome guest photographer today from Kenya, a wildlife photographer. Before we introduce the photographer and today's topic, let me introduce my really good friend and partner, Art Wolfe. Art, how are you? Good morning.
I am great. It's gray where I'm at, so I don't know what you're smoking. You said blue sky?
It's in Seattle. I know nothing. It's always blue sky, at least in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Art, are you excited today? We have our common friend, Federico.
I'm a complete admirer of Federico's work, and I can't wait to see his new body of work on One Life.
That's awesome. Great. Well, with that, let's introduce our guest photographer today. Is Federico Veronesi. He joins us from Kenya, and he's going to walk us through his latest project called One Life. And One Life, let me tell you what One Life is about. One Life, at its essence, is about celebrating the strongest connection we as humans share with our fellow species on the planet, our animals. And it's a really interesting concept is that in the end, we're all, no matter what species we are, whether humans, lions, tigers, cheetahs, leopards, we all share the same song of life. We all have the same moments, whether it's raising our offsprings or moments of tenderness and joy or, safety and survival. We all share the same feelings. And in that, we have one life. We have one heart, one soul, and one life. And to that end, Federico has come up with this beautiful book that I'm going to show you, and we're going to talk about that through images and stories. It's called One Life. It's a brand new book. I got this on Kickstarter, a few months back. It's a beautiful book. We're going to see some images and the stories behind that from Federico directly, and we can talk about towards the end how you can get your copy as well. So with that, Federico, a warm welcome to you, my friend. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Parimal. Thank you, Art. Thanks a lot for inviting me. It's a pleasure. It's evening for me, so good evening for Kenyan time. So really happy to be here again because we already had a chat with Parimal a few months ago. And I'm happy. Last time we just anticipated the book was going to be there soon, and now it's finally here. So I'm really happy to present it to everyone and to present it to you. And I hope you'll enjoy.
Great. So Federico, as you start sharing images and telling us the stories, just for our audience, where can they find more information about the book since we all multitask? Is it on your website directly?
It is on my website, absolutely. The order for linking, the link for ordering the book is right on the first page. So It should be straightforward to find it there.
Got it. So it's Federico. So it's federicoveronesi.com. You can Google the name and go to the book section. You will find this there. And let's all support Federico. It takes a lot to produce a book. It's a labor of love, sweat, and tears. It takes a lot and such beautiful imagery. So let's support each other. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So shall we start
yes.
going through the story? I'm really pleased of how you introduced the book, because you've basically really caught the essence of the whole idea. I'll move to the next. Okay, here it is. So basically, the whole idea of this book comes basically from two main things. There was one afternoon when I was in Serengeti National Park in December of 2017. That's almost 3 years ago. And I was watching in the Serengeti National Park. The habitat is extremely picturesque. You have these beautiful endless savannas with rocky outcrops rising from the plains. So it's really a fantastic place. And the the most fascinating thing there is lions, the presence of the presence of lions dominating and the ecosystem, and it's really one of my favorite places where to photograph. And one afternoon I was there I was in the Serengeti. I was near a particular rock, and that's the first picture on the left. And there was a mother lioness with two tiny cubs, about 3 months old. And as usual, in the afternoon, they're lazy, lounging on the rocks. And the cub, eventually, as the sun started to descend, one of the cubs came out from the rocks and took this and went in between these rocks. And just as I was there, I realized that a few months before that, in February, I had seen a male lion, a huge male lion, who had just moved into that territory from somewhere else. So he was new to the area with his brother, and he was exactly in the same rock, exactly on the same rock, exactly. And he went up, and that lion, I had taken a picture, the picture we see here on the right. I had taken that picture in February of this lion looking at the landscape from that in between those three rocks, smaller rocks on top of the copy. And the lion cub went exactly into the same position. So in that moment, it was like the whole cycle of life, captured in these two images in a way. Because obviously the cub that we see on the left is the son, is the cub of this male, who then, after this picture, established there, mated with the females, and gave birth to these cubs.
Can I interject?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you mid-sentence, because I'm afraid that if you advance to the next photo, I think Parimal might miss the mother in that photo on the left. She's in the shade.
What?
Do you not
Where?
see?
No, I did not see. What?
Take a look.
The mother is looking at the tiny cub.
Oh, wow! Oh my God, I missed that. Did you talk about, wasn't I paying attention or what? I totally missed
but
the
it's
mother.
easy. And I love these kind of photos that have, the main thrust of it. And I was amazed at the connection between the rocks and the stance of both the cub and years before the adult, or months before the adult. But then I saw that mother, and it's like, I love those ones where there's a secondary surprise. And yeah, I think it's very easy to miss that mother, but she's there.
Exactly. And she's quite important in the scene. She's quite
Were you going to talk about that, and did I destroy that moment?
No, I wasn't going to mention. I was basically this, as I was saying, the basically the two images, exactly the same. It obviously was the cub walking the same steps as the father. That was one reading of the thing. But on the other hand, I also thought, why can this not be the same lion at the beginning of his life,
right,
and further on in his life? So one character, one common character. And at the same time, in June of 2017, so in between these two pictures, my son was born. My first son, my first and only son was born, Julia. So then it kind of all came together as also a reflection of, I started kind of seeing a bit of myself in the small cub, and myself further on in life. And so that's when the idea of this kind of interpreting a story of life through different characters, in this case, two different lions, but ideally always one character carrying the story forward.
Got it.
So that's
Great
basically
concept.
that's basically the underlying idea. And as Parimal said, many of these moments are interpreted by lions, leopards, cheetahs, whatever, but they are so common. We can really see ourselves in many of these moments. So that's the idea of the book. So as we said, the book is set in Africa. So we have images mostly from East Africa, that's Kenya and Tanzania. But let's say a recurring element, as we've seen in the book, a recurring element, an almost underlying element throughout the book are the rocks. So we will, throughout the story, we often find animals on these beautiful copies in the Serengeti. I think in terms of pictures, it gives an enormous array of possibilities of taking images wide, tight. As a photographer, I find it's a really, really fulfilling place, because you can really let your creativity go, express itself. For example, this image I was actually very close to the rock, and I wanted to include the savannah, the other rock, with the lion on the left, but I could have taken so many other different images, and that's the beauty of this place. But I think this kind of gives us the setting of for the story.
It's beautiful.
So, as we said, the story obviously begins with the baby. The story begins with the baby. This is not exactly the first image, but I think this image captures quite well the maternal instinct, and I love the expression of the cub here. This was again in the Serengeti. This lioness had put hidden cubs in a bush right next to a normally dry stream, but just a couple of days before there had been a huge torrential rain in the area. So the water had flooded the stream, and it was getting really close to the den. So she went in and picked the cub. Now in the story, our, let's say, imaginary character is the cub. So here is the cub abandoning itself to mother's care, and I love the look in the mother's eyes. There's, I think, as I'm sure Art will agree, photographing mothers with cubs is probably one of the most fulfilling and exciting elements, the scenes that you can see in nature. And the next couple of images are kind of to be seen together in a way. This is taken in the Masai Mara in Kenya in 2015. These are two leopards that I've followed extensively. The first one is Lorian. She was about 10 years old in this picture. And the small baby is a leopard called the Luluka. She was named right about that age, when she was about 4 or 5 months. And I've in my life, we probably mentioned it the other time, I've spent a lot of time in the Mara. Probably the Masai Mara in Kenya is the place where I spent most of my photographic life. That has been captured a lot in the first book, and it's also apparent here. And one of the things that I loved the most was to follow the animals, being always in the same place, having the chance to follow the animals, the same animals, seeing them grow up, see them evolve. And this happened with these leopards. I followed Lorian for a long time, and this one is, and Luluka here, she's a small cub looking for her mother's affection, always, in very cat way, passing under mother's chin. But fast forward 4 years later, Luluka is now a mother of her own. Oh. This is her. The cub that we've seen before is now here carrying her own cubs to safety. She had this was last year. This was August 2019, and we caught up with her in the early morning. I knew where she had the cubs, where she was hiding the cubs in a hole. The cubs are still very small, so I'm completely unable to walk in this image, and there were lions around. And most importantly, there was a male leopard in the area, which we heard from somebody who had seen him a few minutes before and disappeared immediately. So she was really not relaxed anymore in that dance. So she felt the need. As soon as daylight came, she felt a bit safer with daylight, and she went into the hole where she was hiding the cubs, and she took them out, walked a long way away from the river because the lions were just upstream from her. So she had to kind of circumnavigate the lions that had been roaring all night. So it was really a fantastic scene to see a leopard that I'd seen when she was a super tiny baby, and to see her now a mother. And this year she has cubs again. I'm hearing, because I haven't been in Amara for a while, but I hear she has cubs again. So that's one of the things that this was particularly lucky to find them out to find such a scene.
It's such morning light. Every photo you show is. I could interrupt your story and talk about the composition, the lighting, the power of the moment, but you have such a compelling story. I feel like I want to be quiet and allow you to tell the story.
No, please don't worry. Anytime, really. Whenever you feel.
If that's the case, go back to the last photo for just 1 second.
This one.
I love this. The way her energy is looking left. Well, for us, it's looking left.
Sure.
And the tail and the baby is directing us to the right. And the balance between those opposing directions is really powerful. And it creates a beautiful balance. But the way that the baby's tail is hooking around the mother's head, it's so extraordinary and so beautifully done.
Thank you. It's one of those, you know very well, leopards are really, they're quintessential cats. They're, independent already from a very early age. To catch an image or a moment of an interaction between leopards, even between mother and cub, is really something that's doesn't come easy, isn't it? No, these moments are so fleeting. They might come together for a second or two, and then they split up again. The cub goes their way and goes to do her things. They have a very independent nature already from a very early age. So that's why they're so moments like these are so sought after by photographers.
They're precious. They're precious moments.
Federico,
all right, let's move on because I don't want to get us off track here. But that's just
no. I just wanted to make one comment. What this image speaks to me, everything in addition to what you guys discussed right now, is the fact that they're sort of looking into different directions. In a way, is a metaphor that the baby leopard is also independent and is going to charter her own life soon. Which, as you tell in the next image, that's what happens.
Exactly. So that's the is absolutely exactly in the story we follow our character. Unfortunately, obviously, I couldn't put all the images of the book to follow the whole story through, but basically, our young character separates from his family and goes out to live on his own, and he faces there's that phase of life after independence, and when that's the same for animals, the same for us. That's feeling of confrontation with others, putting ourselves in relation to others. That's a delicate moment in everyone's life. And so there's in this section of the book, there's a series of images of interaction, of like confrontations between animals. And for this evening, I chose these particularly these two lions because
yeah, you're back. Can you hear us okay, Federico?
No, and the answer is no. So we'll just wait.
We'll just wait for his internet.
Yeah, for the audience, Federico indicated that there were multiple disruptions happening with his end over the previous days. And so our role is to keep talking and stay on point, and he will come back.
He will come back. Yeah, it's the
Well,
internet.
let's talk about this image while he's struggling. You know, I think his choice on using black and white a lot is really powerful, right? It's very graphic. He's very much an artist with a camera. And this is one of the reasons I really respond to Federico's work. And the short story is I first saw it in a bookstore, and then I promoted it on my website, and that's when we became fast friends. Okay, he's back.
He's back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh.
we can hear you.
Okay, let me share again.
While we were gone, we offered 75% off on your book to everyone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, great. Thank you.
I'm just kidding.
Really sorry for this. I really hope this thing that leaves us.
No worries, no worries. It's okay.
No worries. No worries.
So back to this image is a kind of a I don't know when you lost me. Basically, there's a phase of the book where we have a number of images of confrontations between animals. These lions in particular are typical. This one wasn't a particularly violent fight, but the great thing is that as they were chasing each other, they ran straight towards me, and so I could take their pictures with a quite short lens, and that gives this this very strong presence. The presence of the lions with the dark background in the distance. So it kind of reminisces of my previous book, Light and Dust. I really love this kind of atmosphere where you have light and elements like dust and mist coming in, and in this book there's still a lot of that, although this one is predominantly black and white, but we'll still see some of those moments in the book.
Federico, can you scoot a little bit back as your head is getting slightly? Yeah, that's better. Okay. That's perfect.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. There's no need to get close.
Thank you.
I have a microphone here, so
yeah.
So and as you know, in this phase of the book, in this part of the book, there is the element of confrontation, but there is also the element of isolation, kind of feeling really not completely not feeling kind of into the world. That when in that age, when you're just after you've just kind of becoming independent in your teenager, early 20s. So that feeling was there a lot for me, and that eventually evolved into my deciding to leave my place, to leave Italy and move to Africa. And so I wanted to express I wanted to express this feeling by choosing images of animals completely inserted in their landscape. And this is a type of photography that I really love. Art has been a pioneer in this with his already many years ago. And so I feel the importance of showing the animal in the landscape. It's something that's, especially if the landscape is particularly fascinating and interesting in itself, the addition of the animals makes the whole image come alive in a way. So in this for tonight, I've chosen a couple of images from a place that I really love, and because it's completely different from the savannas of East Africa, and there is this beautiful woodland just along the lower Zambezi River, place called Mana Pools National Park in Zimbabwe. It's a place where I've spent a lot of time photographing from 2012, every year except this year, obviously, but every year I've been going there and taking people, and I find the habitat extremely fascinating. And so this particular image, this in the story, I've put it together this evening, but in the story it comes earlier. Obviously, a lioness walking with the cub, with the ray of light coming through, a bit of dust is suspended in the air. These are the kind of atmospheres that make this place really really special. But
And in
not only that,
Manapools, in this environment, you can actually walk into the forest, unlike a lot of locations.
Exactly. This picture was actually taken on foot, which is quite remarkable. It's really being there when you're walking with your camera and your tripod, and you hear lions roaring, and instead of doing what you would normally do, you would, instead of walking away if you're on foot from lion, there you just go and look for them and try to take a picture. In this particular image, we were actually looking for wild dogs, and we found the wild dogs, but we noticed immediately they were really, really skittish. They were really, really panicking, and we couldn't fully understand until in the distance. We saw the pride of lions walking. They had been stolen. The wild dogs had been stolen their prey just before sunrise, and so the lions were still in the vicinity. And to witness all this on foot, as Art has been there, and it's a totally different experience, because suddenly you have no barriers between you and nature. You're just part of it. So it's really special, really unique. And the same forest, I feel there's basically two situations in which this forest becomes so interesting for photography. And the one we've seen before, rays of light coming through the trees, dust, so you get this beautiful atmosphere, especially early morning and late afternoon. But there are times during the day, especially if it's not very sunny, that this forest, if you photograph in a certain direction towards the sun, the forest becomes completely blue. In certain times of the year, when there's a bit of haze, sun maybe not so strong, not much wind, these are the kind of atmospheres that you get, which is really, really almost unbelievable. You cannot believe a completely blue forest in front of you. And this particular image was taken last year. You might remember, Art, last year was one of the worst droughts in Africa, basically throughout the continent. In Manapools, it was particularly tough, because most of the animals of Manapools rely on the pods of these trees called Albida Phaidherpia, dropping right in the dry season. So these pods are very nutritious, and so normally they sustain elephants, baboons, impalas, everyone. But last year, because it was so dry, it hadn't rained enough, the pods almost didn't drop. There was almost no drops. So it was a terrible year for the park. A lot of animals dying. And this image was a very touching moment. Two elephants approaching and touching the carcass of another elephant who had died days before. So this was I call this elephant's funeral, because it's really and it was a very moving moment. And
these elephants likely, Federico, will return to the bones in years.
Correct.
They'll come back and come back again.
Correct.
Oh wow!
Correct.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. They're extremely, their relationship with their deceased companions is very strong. It's very touching. Absolutely. So obviously they were probably still recognizing who it was, and so it was a very touching moment to see this. I knew that it happens, but I'd never seen it really in nature and in such a kind of a evocative setting. It was particularly touching.
Art and Federico, it just occurred to me when you said that the relationship to the deceased is very strong. The reason I say is it caught me a bit by surprise that some of these feelings we often attribute to humans only, right? It's like it's just us, and in some ways we feel we are some special something more. And in that, what you just illustrated is that no, it's not really true. Like animals experience the same feelings, in some ways even stronger. And in that, we
Absolutely.
are the same, really.
So Parimal, I think it's photographers like Federico and other photographers that have been out there recording wildlife that every year we understand more of the intricacies of not only particular animals' lives, but also the relationships with all the other animals in their environment. The more as photographers we're out there witnessing and recording and documenting, the more we have that kind of understanding.
So true.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In fact, that's the whole, reason we started Earth as Our Witness, is to show that interconnection between various elements, is that we are not isolated from the world. Cool. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Federico.
I have a photo, and this is Federico's show, but I photographed in Namibia a couple of years back, two brilliantly white elephants that had dusted in a silica. And so they were like ghosts. They were just whiter than white, but they were driving a pride of lions away from a carcass of an elephant that had died. And it was like they kept returning and driving away black-backed jackals and then driving away the elephant or the lion pride. And it just as in this image, it captures that connection and that emotional bond, even with deceased relatives.
It's wonderful.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the Etosha elephants, isn't it? Those white giants, amazing creatures.
Yeah.
So on to the story. Our character is now pictured here as still in the form of an elephant. This time always in Zimbabwe, but farther to the west, on the shores of Lake Kariba, in a park called Matuzadona National Park. Kariba is probably the world's biggest artificial lake. It was created in the 50s by the construction of a dam near the town of Kariba along the Zambezi River. So the construction of this dam obviously flooded the valley, the Zambezi Valley before the dam. And so it was, at the moment, it was a major operation to rescue animals that were stranded in islands and all that. But at the moment, the lake has covered the valley up to the point that many of these trees that were 50 years ago were very far away from the river obviously have died because of the water, because they ended up underwater. But their skeletons still, their trunks still remain in the water, emerging from the water. And this obviously makes an extremely interesting photographic setting. I really love this, the feeling of these dead trees and the animals walking through. And I think it kind of, I use this picture to capture that feeling again of isolation and desolation, when you're almost feeling like, you just can't fit in the world. You just, and with the next image, between this image and the next, our character finally embarks on, let's say, a kind of a metaphorical journey. And this journey takes us across deserts. I've used it a lot in the presentation of the book, A Journey of Life Across Deserts. And this, now the character has become an oryx, a gemsbok in particular, because the picture is taken in Namibia, in the Sossusvlei, in the Namib Desert. It's such a fantastic place, again, completely different from the savannas of East Africa, and finding an animal who is able to survive through this, in this landscape is quite phenomenal. But it's quite surprising how many animals actually do survive. You have springboks, you have Gamsbok, you have ostriches, you have jackals, you have quite a variety of animals living even among the dunes in the Namib Desert. But in this image, I wanted to convey the sense of, dune after dune, of a long journey across empty desert lands.
Beautiful.
If I
very, very nice.
Next, thank you. Next one. This is again the same idea of a journey through endless empty lands. This looks like a desert, but it's not really a desert. It's a dry lake. It's a lake that only fills up on the heaviest rainy seasons. It's in the northwest of Amboseli National Park in Kenya, and it's one of the most fascinating places I've seen, one of the most fascinating places I've photographed elephants in. And basically what happens, because the water in the ecosystem is only located around the marshes of Amboseli National Park, in certain seasons, the elephants who are feeding outside of the park, in the woodland, in the dry acacia woodland outside the park, have to come to the marshes into the park to drink, or to complement the diet with grassland, with grassland that grows near the marshes. So they do this journey, 1 hour and a half, sometimes a couple of hours, to walk across this about 150 square kilometer dry lake. And it's absolutely fascinating because the soil is cracked by the sun, by the scorching sun. The place is completely flat, it's endless, and it's extremely fascinating. And elephants, families of elephants walking through, are an amazing subject. In this particular image, I've tried to go as high as I could to give that sense of space, of endless space, and size of the place, by going high and putting the elephants under the horizon and giving them and showing all the giving that sense of this endless journey that they have to endure. As similarly to the copies, it's another one of those places where you same subject, same situation, so elephants walking across, but you have so many different ways of photographing it, which is what makes this whole thing so interesting. As you've seen, the previous image was taken from as high as I could on the car. Now this one is taken as low as I could. So it gives a totally different feeling, totally different reading of the scene, which is, in this particular situation, there were actually 3 families walking together at the same time. Elephants often do that. Once one family gets going, then all the others who are in the area also get going. They have these ways of communicating to one another, and they often sometimes they wait for one another. If one family is not ready, they will wait, and then once they start. So this is why you have elephants of different sizes in the images. Some were closer, some were farther away.
Well, the repetition of similar shapes is powerful, but what I respond to is that group, the farthest group, they almost have the sense of being insects. And it's just a really fun image to look at for that very difference in scale and the sheer. I mean, these are huge animals, but in this case, they're overwhelmed by that vastness of landscape, and I just love that. I think most photographers would try to put on a telephoto and zoom in on 3 or 4 out of the beasts, but to see them on different scales and distances is what makes this photo really quite striking to me.
Thank you, exactly.
I also love Federico, what you said about when one unit is sort of trailing behind, the others wait, for them to catch up. I can also see a little baby calf, right, I'm assuming next to its mother, as kids are often holding on. In India, we have the little babies, kids holding on to the mother's sari, the dress. It's very endearing, very emotionally endearing image as well in that context.
Exactly. It's the families of elephants are just unbelievably fascinating to look at the babies. So, and to think that a tiny baby, these baby elephants, after 2 or 3 hours from after birth, they start following the mothers into the water, across the desert. Everything that the mothers do, they will just follow. And they're so resistant, so really strong creatures already from the start.
Can I just make maybe a bit of a digression? But but in what we just talked about, the sense of family between elephants and I'm sure other species, and probably in some ways is even stronger than humans, because here in the modern society, we often talk about, oh my God, someone's coming over. They're going to stay for what, 1 week? That's a lot. Like, we want our privacy, and independence. But I just thought it's a thought. Maybe it's a random thought, but that's what I felt.
It's true. The elephants family are, especially mostly let's say there's a nucleus in each family composed by the mother and her babies, and maybe one sister to the mother or one previous daughter who has her babies as well. But at times, especially in times of plenty of food, etc., they like to come together in big numbers. So when it's very dry and no food, they will go separate ways. But then when it's good and it's plentiful, they come together, sometimes hundreds or 200s, and they are all kind of related families coming together. It's sort of like a big reunion when there's abundance of food. So it's really fantastic to be there in those moments, because the calves play and the mothers meet. Really fantastic animals to observe. We carry on. Our journey continues across rivers now. So we cross deserts and we cross rivers. So this is kind of a metaphor of the challenges that life places on our path, and that's quite fitting for our times as well. And but this basically there's a couple of images. There's a few images from the river. These images from probably the most famous river crossing in the world, in the Great Migration of Wildebeests that moves across the Serengeti ecosystem. And as in the dry months, when they get to the north of the ecosystem, they have quite a few rivers to cross, but maybe the most famous one and the most celebrated one is the crossing of the Mara River. And that happens mostly between June, July, through to October, both in Kenya and Tanzania. And the crossing itself by the wildebeest it's one of the most spectacular and dramatic scenes that you can probably witness in nature, especially if you can find a crossing with dust, and especially if you can get it in early morning light like this one, and with the light coming in the right direction, giving that sort of dramatic mood. And what I really liked about this image, and why I put it in the book, is when you see the wildebeest really move basically like one cohesive unit. And if you stop and look at the life and the trials of the individual, you probably wonder, why the hell are they going to cross this river? Why there's crocodiles, there's rocks, there's slippery banks, they can drown. Why do they do it? Why don't they just keep grazing on the other side, where there's still grass?
I've thought about that. It's a fair question.
Exactly. But you're not thinking about the individual. You have to think about the species. If the species crosses that river, if a huge number of wildebeest cross that river, they will get to the other side and they will have much more plentiful food for everyone, so they can be more, so they can exploit the ecosystem as much as they can, so they can get every new grass coming up, fresh grass, more nutritious grass, as in the species benefits, but not necessarily the individual. That's the big,
Wow.
the fascinating thing with the crossing and with the migration in general. So it doesn't make a lot of sense if you only look at the individual, but if you look at the species, then it becomes perfectly, nature's perfection. So it's tough when you're focusing on a single individual, and here this ray of light coming through the trees is kind of putting a spotlight on this young wildebeest. This is a wildebeest about 6 or 7 months old. Wildebeest are born more or less all at the same time in February, and so by the time they get to the dry season, they're more or less all of the same age. But here you can see, if you look carefully, he's already wet. So that means that he has crossed the river once already. He's gone to reached the other side, looked for his mother, didn't find her, so decided to come back to look for her.
Wow.
So if you start focusing on the individual's drama, it becomes really heart-wrenching at times. Oh. And so here is, I love this, he's kind of feeling completely alone, an individual in a mass of animals, and so that's basically what makes this image kind of interesting, especially in the context of the book. But it's a fascinating spectacle to watch.
Absolutely. It is really amazing photo.
Absolutely, thank you. So as our story progresses, our character goes through rain, thunderstorms. So that's, but I couldn't go through the whole story. But basically, at the end of the journey, the idea is to get to the sunrise, and finally the light coming through. And when I think about in this, I know the book is not really the story of my life. It's not, it's all metaphorical. But in my journey, I have this moment when I moved from Italy. I moved to Kenya, and that's when I kind of felt like I had really gotten to where I wanted to be. I suddenly, all that feeling of being out of place, of being being disconnected, kind of all went away. And so this phase of the book is full of images of light coming through and warmth coming through. So that's what this phase of the book is about. This is a leopard. Again, we are on a rock in the Serengeti, but this one is a leopard, not a lion. Leopards as well love these rocks, and cheetahs as well, but leopards and lions in particular.
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much. This is in the book. It appears, it's described as a sunrise, but I can say it here. It's actually a sunset. But let's say in the book it looks like it doesn't have to be too descriptive. So it's
creative license.
Exactly. So
you said it before, and I think you've been really great with this. This book is a book of metaphors, and it's telling the bigger story. And yeah, you have different characters that play the role, and I think it's a really powerful story that you've just told.
Thank you very much.
And it doesn't matter whether that's a sunrise or a sunset, if it falls appropriately in the book as part of the story. Yeah, it's totally valid and logical way to place it.
Was that your last image, Federico, or do you want to talk about?
No, there's a few more.
No, go for it.
The story is not over.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I know Parimal couldn't leave this one out.
Yeah, this is for me. Federico put this in for me. Thank you.
It's part of the section of a book where animals really kind of I captured some portraits where animals are really feel like filled with life and filled with they convey all their majesty and strength. And this image, besides Parimal's suggestion, is really one of my favorites, because it's quite not a unique. We can't say unique because there are some, but normally leopards don't have blue eyes in their adulthoods. Most of them don't. So the fact that the cubs are born with blue eyes, most of them are born with blue eyes, but then as they grow up, they get to 3 months, 4 months, they lose them, and then they become yellow like other leopards. But this one didn't. This one kept his blue eyes, and here he's about 2 years old, still in the mother's territory. But this was the last picture of him that I took. That is the last time I saw him. Next time I heard somebody saw him in a completely different area of the Mara. So basically, after 2 years, he had been chased away from the territory of his mother and of his father, of course. Even more importantly, young boys in cats, in felines, they have to move. They have to go. They can't stay where they were born, because otherwise they would get in conflict with their fathers. So that's their destiny. They're kicked out, and they have to go and make their own life, make their own territory somewhere else. The peculiarity of this one is this blue eyes. It looks like it's taken from a low angle, but he was actually on the bank of a river, and I was below the bank. Hence, we get this very dramatic low angle with the bushes in the background, and he was lying down comfortably, and suddenly saw something across the river, and he decided to head in that direction. So that's the idea behind this image. So there is this phase of there's this part of the book where animals are filled with life, and then there is that moment of encountering someone, connection. This is the phase of the book when two individuals come together. Here is represented in this image 2 elephants. We are back on the dry lake, but that's now seen in a different context. These 2 young male elephants, they're coming together. They were walking together, and as they often do, every once in a while, they decide to play fight. And so I caught this moment when they were still not together yet, but almost there. So that's the idea. So now the story goes in. That's what this part of the story captures: getting close to another individual, and probably the centerpiece of the whole book is probably this image, which is also on the cover, again captured in the Serengeti on a rock, exactly that one. This is the complete one. That's how the complete image is. This, as it always happens, I could have waited for days to take this image, and I wouldn't have made it. But instead, that afternoon, I went to try to look for something in one particular rock. There was nothing, so I said, okay, let me go to these other rocks. Hopefully, there are lions there. I hadn't even stopped the car, and the lioness stands up and walks to the edge. The male follows. I grab my camera, engine still on, and I grabbed these images. And then obviously they descended the rock and they went in the grass, and it was all over. So it's just to show how sometimes moments are completely they just happen on you just like that. And I feel this image captures the idea of the book very strongly, because it's 2 animals but 1 life. So it's also it's also a love story. This book, there's also that element, and so it's also 1 life but 2 individuals, and which is also that's another reading of the book and of the story. And so there are 2, but they perfectly overlap in one, and they're looking together. So I think this is probably the centerpiece of the book. And the story isn't over, but for the rest, the book will tell the rest.
You know, Federico, I can't think of a more perfect photo. I just am absolutely in love with this photo. And as you say, you didn't even have time to think. You just were reliant on your own instincts, and you made it happen. And there's a certain amount of luck, but a lot of skill. And then it's just so powerful. I mean, it's such a graphic, and your choice to turn it into a black and white and all those reasons, it's just, it's perfect for the cover of the book. And it's a wraparound cover. So the front of the book is really the front part of the animals. But to see it in its entirety is just so pleasing to see.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Beautiful.
So
As we come to the end of this episode, man, I've enjoyed this. This is beautiful. I got to say, on behalf of everyone, I'm sure Art agrees, each image was not only visually stunning, but also so emotionally poignant, you know, in that you truly kind of explain what you mean by one life, not in some superficial way, but I love the concept of the one character, different animals playing that character as they go through different moments in life, whether it's birth and caring and love and tenderness and the journey and the challenges and the conflict and then kind of the new beginnings. It's just beautiful. As we wrap, I have a question for both of you, maybe starting with Art and then to you, Federico, is looking at this body of work and also your own experiences, you know, living and witnessing planet Earth. What is the one thing you feel we can all, as humans, learn from the animal kingdom?
Well, I mean, I think Federico made the statement that we are just like the other animals, and that our story of birth, life, love, and death is the same story for all the animals that share this tiny planet. And I think that is what a lot of people that never travel don't get. They see the vastness of the planet, and Africa is somewhere that they may never get. And for me, I could travel around the globe in 24 hours. It's a very small planet that we share with so many other species that are vitally important for, you know, for all of us. You know, every time we lose a species, our lives are diminished. And I don't think that people get that yet, you know? And so the value of seeing this body of work, but also our other colleagues are contributing to our knowledge and the importance of sharing the planet. I mean, I ramble now, but that's kind of the essence.
Thank you.
And another thing that I want to hopefully highlight with the book is the resilience, the attachment to life of the animals. It's unbelievable how they go through unbelievably difficult conditions, difficult situations, yet they just keep going. They just keep going. They just keep going. They keep on being themselves. They use their strength. They use their skills, their intelligence, their memory. The elephants walking through the lake for hours. They know there's water there. They know there is grass, and they keep. They just don't give up. They never give up. And that's another powerful message that I think the animals give us. And when sometimes we might feel like in a moment like this, we're like. We might be prone to getting low and not seeing the future, and they just keep going. They just keep going. They just keep on being themselves through everything until they reach the other side. So it's another thing that I've learned through these years with the animals.
And a great metaphor for us. Yeah.
Well, with that, I'm going to conclude here. Once again, everyone watching, and please do share this with your friends and family. Like I said at the beginning, it takes a lot to create a book. It's a labor of love and sweat and tears of many years, and just beautiful imagery. I have my copy in my hand. It's One Life. This is the cover. You can actually go to Federico's website, and the URL is right here, books.federicoveronesi.com. If you don't remember, Google it. I'll put it in the link as a follow-up as well. I'll put in a link. And I'm just going to, as we close, just read out one more time a couple of sentences from the introduction by Federico to really nail it. I just love this talk and the book concept. A celebration of life as the strongest connection between us humans and our companions on this planet, the animals, is at the heart of this book. They were when we were not. It's so true. They were before us. They will remain when we are gone. So true. Some sadly will not survive us. Unfortunately, also true. What we do to them, we do to ourselves. We are one, though in different external appearances. We have one heart, one soul, one life. That's the book. Thanks a lot, Federico. Thank you very much, Art. And thank you to everyone joining us live. This has really been special. This is what we do. We love bringing different photographers with different perspectives to Earth as a Witness, with really as a purpose of inspiring creativity and compassion that really truly connects us all. You know, we are in some ways the same, and this talk has literally nailed that. You know, perfect. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.